Game ain't over. The sun is shining. And it ain't over.
You wanted the best, you got the best from my home studio here on Long Island, New York. Welcome to Ian Scotto Rocks. I am your host, Ian Scotto, and more details are emerging in the death of Kimberly Burch, the fiance, longtime partner of Tammy Down of Faster Pussycat. Up until now, we really did not know much, but Riki Rachtman, who many of you know, of course, from MTV, Headbangers Ball, also NASCAR, has come out and revealed a lot more during a Facebook Live. And for those who don't know the connection, there's a long-time connection there with Tammy Down. So the two of them in the early days in LA in the 80s created a club called the Cat House, of which you still see plenty of people wearing merchandise. They were partners in that club. They lived together for a certain period of time, and they still seem to be the best of friends who talk all the time. And every few years out in LA, there's a reunion of the Cat House, and Riki will host that. Tammy will perform with Faster Pussycat, so there's still long-time connection there. But Riki seems to have had a lot on his mind and kind of revealed everything that he says he knew on a Facebook Live, and there's a lot to unpack here, so we're just going to get into it all. This is from Metal Sludge, who always seems to be on top of this stuff, and props to Metal Sludge. I believe Steve Rochelle, the founder, follows us on here, and I often refer to Metal Sludge on the channel because they've been so pivotal in so many of these major news stories that happen, and being first a lot of the time, but also getting a lot of insight from the major players into what happens in rock music, and especially during the 80s scene. Yeah, we'll just get right into it right here. Metal Sludge, and this is the headline right here. Riki Rachtman tells all in Facebook Live, Kimberly Burch committed suicide. She jumped off the boat, and unfortunately, she did it right in front of Tammy. Now, before I get into the article itself, I want to make it clear, although I consider Riki a great source on this type of stuff, you know, which I also want to reiterate, very tragic and unfortunate news. I can't report this as fact or anything like this. This is what Riki said during a Facebook Live. Until we actually see more, I can't report on it as being pure evidence. You know, there's no video attached or anything like that other than the Facebook Live that we see, but let's just get right into it here. So this is March 7th. More details are starting to emerge related to the horrific tragedy that took place on the 80s cruise and the unfortunate incident involving Tammy Down's fiance, Kimberly Burch. Today was day 5 of 7 on the week-long cruise, and according to multiple sources, Metal Sludge has learned that Down and the entire Faster Pussycat band are still on board Royal Caribbean's The Explorer of the Seas. Okay, that cruise is now done. So everybody is off board. We know that at this point. And then that's the update I have. We've also started to hear bits and pieces surrounding the evening of Sunday, March 2nd, soon after Faster Pussycat played, and when Burch went overboard. The unthinkable situation unfolded right off the balcony of the couple's room, resulting in a frantic search by the crew just hours after the vessel set sail on day 1. It has been presumed by authorities that Burch died after her fall from the 8th story off the 15-deck ship at around 11 p.m. East, while the ship was roughly 20 miles off the coast of the Bahamas. According to an update regarding the incident on the ship's Wikipedia, the ship stopped for search and rescue but resumed course several hours later while the Coast Guard continued search and recovery efforts. Now today, one of Down's lifelong friends, Riki Rachtman, has spoken out about what happened, and the California native is clearly upset as he shared an emotionally charged, near 20-minute message expressing his feelings via Facebook Live. Rachtman posted around 2:30 p.m. Pacific time and titled his video, "I shouldn't go live, but I'm furious and sickened." Rachtman appeared to want to hold back, even referring to himself as a hypocrite and noting he was furious at those who talked negatively about this incident on social media. But in the end, the former Headbangers Ball host made some valid points here. The following is part of what Rachtman said during his Facebook Live, as transcribed by Metal Sludge. Now, I'm going to tell you exactly the truth, and I hope this doesn't it's not going to get me in trouble because it's the truth. And I hope Tammy is not upset that I'm doing this because I've been talking to Tammy a lot. Okay, here's the deal. Okay, Kimberly and Tammy have always had a very toxic relationship. They've been fighting a lot. They've always fought a lot, and a lot of it had to do with drugs and alcohol. Tammy loved Kimberly very, very much. Kimberly loved Tammy very, very much. However, they fought all the time. That is the true story. Rachtman is clearly very emotional in all of this, and it's evident that he is hurting for his friend Down and Burch as well. And there's a photo of the actual ship, as you can see there. This, massive, massive cruise ship. Rachtman continued to share his thoughts and feelings regarding the tragedy. So from what I understand, and please, I feel horrible, and I know I am going to sound so insensitive, which is not the case. I have so many feelings about this, but there are people that are posting accusations geared at Tammy, and so now I'm going to tell you the honest truth of what is happening. Kimberly Burch committed suicide. She jumped off the boat, and unfortunately, I'm shaking right now, and unfortunately, she did it right in front of Tammy. When someone commits suicide, they're hurting very, very bad, and when they commit suicide, the pain is gone. However, all the people around them suffer an even greater pain. Suicide is a very, very selfish act, added Rachtman. Here is some truth, okay? Kimberly has spoken about suicide before, but she never followed through with it. They were fighting all the time, says Rachtman. The Cat House co-founder then goes on to say, I'm going to tell the record straight. This is not guesses or anything else. For anybody to put any blame on Tammy is absolutely disgusting. The fact is he was exonerated of all charges. If he wasn't, he'd be in jail. There is video. I can't believe I am even saying this because I was trying to stay away from this. There's video of her committing suicide, and Tammy was cleared of all charges. Rachtman continued with his heartfelt message to fans about the relationship between Down and Burch. How is Tammy doing? How do you think he's doing? Rachtman said in disgust as he references people texting and asking him these questions. The woman he has lived with for the last 8 years committed suicide in front of him, and I feel horrible for Kimberly that she has been in so much pain and that she had to commit suicide. I feel horrible for the friends of hers. Tammy did absolutely nothing wrong, but he is going to be scarred for the rest of his life, added Rachtman. As of press time, there's been no official statement from Down or Faster Pussycat, the 80s Cruise, or Royal Caribbean. Rachtman was co-founder with Down when the pair opened the private nightclub Cat House back in 1986 in Hollywood, which eventually led to the California native securing a job to host MTV's Saturday late-night video show Headbangers Ball. Metal Sludge continue to send strength to Tammy Down, the Faster Pussycat Camp, and all of those related. We also would like to send our continued condolences to Kimberly Burch, her friends and family. To watch Riki Rachtman's Facebook Live, scroll down. So yeah, you can see that if you go to Metal Sludge, of course. So there's a lot to break down here. First of all, I did see there were plenty of comments on news articles, even on the first video I did, putting some of this blame on Tammy Down, and because people said that they were fighting. And as Riki expands upon there, he claims that they were always fighting. For one, it's like if you look at their Instagram, it seems like it was such a great relationship and everything was perfect. But that is often how things are framed on the internet when people put up these social media posts. I personally have friends, I'm sure you guys do too, where it seems like they're in such a healthy relationship, always sending pictures out and about, loving life, and then the next thing you hear, they're getting divorced. And you go, but I thought this was a great relationship, right? I know this has happened to friends of mine. I'm sure many of yours as well. As for the people blaming Tammy, though, this is what happens when people speculate without anything getting out there, without the full story, and it's also just the culture that we live in terms of everybody having to have their outrageous take on everything, sites having to be first on everything, and I'm not going to lie, in this world of just covering media, you do clickbait things. I have as well, but that's one thing. You don't report inaccurate information. For example, I even saw in the Daily Mail, there was an article they put up, and the Daily Mail always fabricates and just puts up, I'm going to say it, pure bullshit a lot of the time. They put up some article that was like, Faster Pussycat frontman goes on expletive, laced, obscene rant prior to the death of Kimberly Burch. And honestly, I clicked on it because it was like, if he was cursing out the audience or something, all right, that looks bad. Maybe something was really going wrong here. But it was him before performing Slip of the Tongue saying, it's all about the pussy motherfuckers, which he always says every performance. So that is not an obscene rant. That's just Faster Pussycat playing and doing the same thing they do every show. So you just see outrageous headlines like that. And once again, I can't confirm what Riki is saying, but I personally at this point believe it. And also just until we actually see video evidence, just for my own sake of the channel and accuracy, I can't say that this is accurate information yet. But Riki Rachtman has always been a really respectable guy and also just someone who reports on accurate info that he gets. And I know for him, this is extremely personal, and it seems like he almost didn't want to put it out there. And maybe should have waited until Tammy made a statement, but it was just weighing on him, it seems like, mentally and emotionally. As for him calling suicide a selfish act, that's something that'll always be debated. I get his point, but then there's also people saying that when they talk about suicide, these are people who are feeling a pain that they just can't let go of, and it seems like their life is just horrific. I mean, I've gone through depression before, and when you hear that she was fueling it with alcohol and those type of things, that's a problem. Him saying that they had fights about drugs and substances, I assume that's not Tammy, because Tammy has been sober for 8 or so years. Now you could say, how do you really know that? Look, I don't know the man personally. Of course, I don't live with the man, but it seems really evident based on the fact that if you saw Tammy's performances prior to like 2018, he really didn't look good out there. He didn't. He was just chain smoke cigarettes. He still sounded fine, but it wasn't an enthusiastic performance by any means. And then after 2018, after he had this major health scare, he just seems revived. And he seems like he's in such a good place. And that's why when you hear this news, you think, I really hope he doesn't go back to his old ways in terms of drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, because it could be lethal for him. It could be deadly. He was in bad shape in terms of his health prior to all that and wound up in the hospital. And that is what forced him to get sober. And news like this is what leads people to relapse. I also don't know what is the future of the band. You know, Faster Pussycat is a very, they have dark songs, you know, even House of Pain about the relationship with his dad, which I've seen in more recent interviews has been mended. So it just seemed like everything was positive. But by and large, Faster Pussycat's music is very, celebratory, very fun. You go to a Faster Pussycat show, you're going to have a great time. And this is probably not a man who's in the right mind state to give people a great time right now. So I think it's very likely it'll be a long time until you see another Faster Pussycat show. At the same time, with all of these bands of that level in the 80s, this is what they do to make a living. These aren't the bands like Guns N' Roses or Aerosmith who have millions of dollars tucked away. These are the mid-level bands who, in order to survive, have to go out there and tour. And that's why they book so many tour dates. So it definitely leaves Tammy in a very bad position. And of course, the family of Kimberly Burch in a horrible position. And if this information is accurate, no matter how she died, it's completely tragic. And all I could really leave you with, I guess, is that if you're going through this mind state, if you have these thoughts of leaving, I've been there myself. I never attempted anything like that, but it's completely normal. Please reach out for help. There's always hope. There's always a reason to live. And let those feelings pass like waves, because I'm telling you, whether it's 1 month from now or 1 year from now, you will smile again. And this is never the way to end it. And Riki does make a point that it leaves a really, really horrible stain for all those people that are your loved ones who are going to miss you until they eventually pass away. So if there's anything more that we hear, I'll get into it on the channel, of course. If you're new to the channel, and we are a newer channel, we do report on rock news. We also do some rock commentary and deep dives on different topics. So we'll leave it at that. Be sure to subscribe and appreciate your support. And to anyone going through something like Kimberly Burch was, please hang in there.